especially all your products. If you have a certain product, like a lot of enterprise companies, big companies will name their products very generic. And then as long as they have you put the brand in front of it, you'll get that, like, Oracle HCM, Workday HCM, you get SAP HCM, like human capital management. So these are things that you definitely have to have a very strong brand in, because people will know that common term of like human capital management, HCM software, but then it's all about the brand.
Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free. And now, back to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host, George Hasiotis, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Dre de Vera. Dre has a vast experience when it comes to enterprise SEO, which is something that we are going to discuss today. But before we do that, Dre, I would like to welcome you to the SaaS SEO Show. Thank you very much for joining us after several follow-ups and chasing you for a few months now. Welcome.
George, my man, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Before we dive into the very interesting things that I have prepared for you today, and have a discussion around all the things that you have learned over the years, could you please share a few things about you and your background? What were the key moments that led to who you are today and what you do today?
Well, what led me to the show here today is the name of the show, SaaS SEO. I've been doing SaaS SEO for over 15 years now for B2B companies, like huge companies like Workday, SAP, Anaplan. So these are some companies that I've been working with for the past 15 years, solely on paid search and SEO, well, basic search marketing. So it would do more of like an SEO and a combination of SEO and PPC. But before I was an SEO, I was actually an offline onlinepreneur. I was a content creator back in the early 2000s. I was taking photos and posting them on websites and creating subscription websites and stuff like that. I was a party promoter. I was also I had restaurants and clothing lines. So all this led me to use SEO to help promote the businesses.
Okay. Interestingly enough, I was a party promoter as well, just for a brief period of time, but I guess that's a discussion we can have off the record. So you have a vast experience when it comes to enterprise SEO. That's very interesting. I knew a couple of the companies that you previously worked with. I didn't know SAP that you mentioned, for example. And Workday. That's great. You are the producer and the host of the SEO Video Show, which is, I would say, one of the best efforts I've seen when it comes to advancing the conversation around all things SEO and organic search. You've interviewed more than 100 professionals, SEO professionals, and I guess, I don't know if this is an answerable question, but my question would be, what are the biggest takeaways that you have from these more than 100 interviews? And, what are the biggest takeaways and learnings that you have from these interviews?
The biggest takeaway from all interviews is that you can learn something new every week. Every single person has a different approach on SEO, and that different approach can add to your own approach, right? You get this competitive advantage by learning for different styles, different techniques from other people. Someone may say something doesn't work in one week, and someone says, "Oh, it works this week," but you'll never know until you test it. But it's nice hearing all these different perspectives and reasonings why things work, and combining it to all for your own secret sauce is something that I've learned every week. That even though SEO, been in SEO for maybe 20 years, 15 years, whatever it is, you can still learn something new every week.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, and I try to live by that. I mean, um, having I have, I guess, half of the conversations that you had for through the podcast. Um, Client work is a completely different story, but you really get to see the world from different perspectives and get all these different angles and creative approaches as to how you can do things. And very often, both on the record and off the record, I get myself caught up in situations like where I'm like, oh, I haven't thought about it that way. And it happens very often with the guests that we have at the show. And it also, the important lesson, I guess, here is that you you should, like, one of the things that we should all accept, I guess, is that we don't know anything, and in our journey we should be open to always learning new things and try to evolve in the way we think about things and do things.
Totally agree there. Because the path to mastery is just by learning every time, being a forever learner, and then also just teaching it, right? So by the time when I'm interviewing people, and then I'm also like kind of repeating it, you're teaching in the audience, and you just feel like you're just mastering your craft.
Yeah, I agree with that. And of course, we could go on and on about this topic, but we have more things that I would like us to cover. And then the next thing, I guess, would be there is this thing of the latest algorithm update by Google, helpful content update. And my question would be, how do you think Google's recent algorithm update will affect our perception of good content and also how we do content?
Mm-hmm. Well, for at least for the companies I work for, big companies, this is something that we really don't worry about, right? These content updates, as long as you're producing your first hand experience, first hand data, and just thought leadership content that's SEO optimized, yeah, you're pretty much safe there. Because this is like something that people will always refer back to you, refer to your company. You become the thought leader within the company. So like, it's a little different when it comes to like these bigger brand companies, because yeah, it's kind of hard for us to get hit by algorithm updates and stuff like that.
So you would say then that there is a connection to authority and how big the brand is and so on, right?
Yes. There's definitely a connection where Google will reward those with the brand name, or even some startups. Some startups will actually get some domain authority just because of like all the announcements they get, right, from like, let's say, TechCrunch or stuff like that, and just getting all these links, all these press releases that people talking about them, and it gives them that authority, right? And Google will just reward them, but at the same time, it's something that you don't really have to experiment with, because even like with backlinks, I know there's some things that where people compare, like, oh, what's the difference between enterprise SEO and regular SEO? Like, with enterprise SEO with big brands, like, you don't really have to worry about backlinks, right? It's really all about your content optimization and your internal linking, and then making sure that your site is well technically sound, right? Because you work with a huge dev department, you have them behind your back. As long as you can create those business cases for them, you can make sure that you're pretty up there.
So would you say this is a great pass for the next question I had for you, which is with regard to the differences between enterprise SEO and SEO, doing SEO for a smaller website. First of all, just to get things right, like, is enterprise SEO, would you say that, even though I wouldn't want to give a definition of enterprise SEO, but would you say that the main difference is the size of the website, or it's one of the things and not the main thing?
I'd say it's more maybe the size of the brand itself, because you can have a website with not that many pages and still being with that higher authority if you have that brand recognition. But for the most part, if you have a brand recognition, you're putting out content left and right. This is something where you're even putting out stuff by, like, all your leaders are putting out content. You're even just putting out your stuff that relates to your product. So these are things that you're just constantly pushing things out. But for the most part, site can be one thing, of course. But I think the brand recognition is also, like, when they say enterprise, like, the actual company itself.
Would you say that the brand recognition comes with the need for identifying and maybe creating more pages that cover terms with navigational search intent? Because I assume that a small brand that, you know, no one knows about or cares about or pays for doesn't really have to worry about all these branded search queries that will eventually, inevitably pop up as you become more popular. But would you say that this is one thing also? Because I assume, and we have seen that with some of the companies that we work with, there are gaps, but not just for keywords that you don't rank for, I mean, non-branded ones, but branded ones. And I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
For like, I'd say branded ones, you definitely have to make sure you cover all your branded terms, because I mean, especially all your products. If you have a certain product, like a lot of enterprise companies, big companies will name their products very generic, and then as long as they have you put the brand in front of it, you'll get that, like, you know, Oracle HCM, Workday HCM, you get SAP HCM, like human capital management. So these are things that you definitely have to have a very strong brand in, because people will know that common term of like human capital management, HCM software, but then it's all about the brand. So you have to make sure you do rank for those things, and those are the most valuable terms for us, especially in paid search. Like the most top converting terms are our branded terms. It's basically our term plus product, our name, I mean our brand plus product, name plus product. And then for even, let's say like for our organic, when we have people searching our brand, it's a way to tell if our offline activities are working. Let's say we've sponsored the PGA, like the golf tour, right? And they'll say, "Hey Dre, like how do we do on our brands? You know, how do we do on searches?" They'll see and see if people search, how many times they search Workday or whatever on when we do sponsor, and they can see how well a offline event was contributing to our brand searches, which is how we kind of measure certain things like that.
That makes sense. Another difference that came to my mind as you know, you were answering that, and I would like to hear your thoughts on that, is that I assume that the bigger a company gets, and I mean, I can only assume that this applies for public SaaS companies and public companies in general. But the bigger the company in general, the bigger the higher the scrutiny. Like you have to be very careful with the things that you publish, with the things that you say, and so on and so forth. Is this one of the things that you would also say identifies a difference between doing SEO for an enterprise company and doing SEO for, I don't know, a startup or something?
Yeah. You definitely have to be careful too. Like, I mean, you can possibly experiment. Like even for SEO startup companies, there's like this, the leaders will actually to experiment. They want to try new things. They really want that growth hack, right? But even at the same time, you have to be careful. You can't do, you know, shady practices and stuff like that. I wouldn't experiment on a company. I know like some companies, like back in the days, like I think it was eBay and JCPenney, they did some experiments and they got actually their sites lost a lot of rankings on Google. Because I mean, when you play with when you kind of do some of the experiments, you should be really, really careful when there's a lot of when there's like investors involved.
Yeah, investors involved, definitely, and many eyes on you, right? Like many people are watching the website, and I would assume that they also, like, some of these people are don't have such a good will and would like to see you do something wrong and maybe report that. So I guess that you have to be careful on all sides. Any other challenges that you faced over the years when it comes to enterprise SEO?
Yeah. When there's a lot of challenges when it comes to enterprise SEO, is that a lot of your colleagues will, believe it or not, will think that PPC and SEO is the same thing. So you have to do a lot of education for them. So you are the head of maybe search. I was the head of search marketing, so I did own both. But they would commonly mistake one for the other. It's like, oh, why we're not doing this? Why we're doing this? I'm like, oh, that's organic, that's paid. And so being able to educate your colleagues, being able to make friends and be good with your dev team and other teams, because you're going to need your dev team, you're going to need your PR team, you're going to need your content marketing teams, and being able to create good relationships between all the teams can be a challenge, but it will benefit you as your SEO career.
That's very interesting. We had Felipe Santos at the podcast, who has led and is leading great teams at some very big companies like Shutterstock, if I'm not mistaken, and so on. So he knows a thing or two about enterprise SEO, and he mentioned the same thing actually, that like exactly because things in bigger companies are so interconnected, and you have to get either approvals or internal buy-in or work and collaborate with other teams. Like it's always good and helpful to have a person in that department to speak to when the time comes to like launch a project together.
Yeah, I always joke around saying like, make sure you take out your dev team and have some beer sometime, just so you can have them in your back pocket when you need some stuff done, especially with all these technical changes that you need.
Yeah, especially devs, I would like to shift gears a bit and discuss
Yeah.
something different, which is hiring. And I would like to know how you approach hiring when it comes to enterprise SEO. What are the elements and qualities, let's say, you look for when hiring for an SEO position?
I'd say you have to be very creative. I mean, at the same time, there are the basics. Believe it or not, I've actually had I interviewed someone that was supposed to become an SEO manager, where they said they were able to get their keywords through Google Analytics. I'm like, wait a minute, that you can have done that like over 15 years ago. So being able to do like the minor research and being able to talk to me, one-on-one about SEO, even showing like just general long tail rankings, maybe ranking for your name, or ranking like for something very, very long tail, as long as like, even though it may have been easy to rank for it, but as long as I know that you were able to get on page one, show that on your resume, show us like how much pipeline you're able to generate for another company on your organic metrics. One way I like looking at this is like, look at the keywords that you rank for, and see how much, see the value of those keywords in PPC, and then you can actually kind of convert that and see the value, your organic traffic value. Having those type of numbers within like your resume and just showing me, we'll get you hired. I mean, for me, it's like SEO. You can, as long as you know the basics and you have someone to work with, a team to work with, and like this person was going to work directly with me, so like you didn't have to know that much, but at the same time, just know your basics, understand. I think project management is also a good skill to have when you're doing SEO, because again, you do work with a lot of stakeholders, and then even communication. Like again, you have to educate. So this is something that you have to make sure you have as well, because I would expect you to relay certain things and teach others, whatever we're doing.
Do you see, or do you ever think about SEO professionals and SEO in general becoming obsolete in the future? Like, the reason I'm asking this question, and I have this discussion, and I ask this question to many people here at the show, is because many of the things that we consider like necessary as skills, or I don't know, even tasks when it comes to SEO, for example, title tag optimization, not that they are not important, but guess what? Google is going to rewrite them in many cases based on the query and so on and so forth. So it becomes less important. And I guess my question would be, do you think that there is a future actually for SEO professionals? And is this a position that will continue to be important and even become more important in the future?
I mean, this is a tagline for my show, where SEO is alive and fun. I mean, this is where SEO is going to constantly evolve, right? This, even though there's, as long as Google's going to be out, as long as there's going to be YouTube, there's things that, anything that has a search engine within a platform, Amazon, stuff like that, there's going to be a search and SEO for a certain platform. SEOs in general, it's been constantly evolving. I originally was a web developer, a web designer, right? And then that was a skill that I actually knew before, SEO, and then actually, it kind of evolved. And then, okay, now I'm an SEO now because I'm doing all this stuff. So it's like, then I was a marketer, and then back to like, doing organic marketing. So it's constantly evolving, but at the same time, it's for the actual, SEO, search engine optimization, it's going to be around for a long time, with searches as being as something that's going to be around.
So as long as people search, we SEO professionals will be relevant and
anywhere.
necessary.
I mean, if Google's gone, we'll be the SEO for, like Amazon, or, whatever it is, the next DuckDuckGo, whatever the next big search thing is on there. Or even, again, if we can get very specific to actual e-commerce sites.
Yeah. That makes sense. I would like to take you back to your workday days, where you managed a website in different languages, locales, and so on.
Yeah.
Can I ask what were the biggest learnings from this experience, especially on the localization aspect of things?
I'll tell you this. It was one of the biggest challenges of my SEO career. One of the things that I had a hard time doing was like we had English websites in other countries, and so being able to have us show the right website in the right country became a challenge. So we pulled out everything that we can. We pulled out old school metadata, like even schema. We started creating Google business profiles in each country. We even started making sure we added the country within the homepage meta title and stuff like that. So we did a lot of things like that, which eventually worked. But I would say getting the right site to show up in the right country can be a big challenge. I even brought this up to the Google Hangouts for John Mueller to answer, like, hey, how come this is not working? And it's like, yeah, it becomes a challenge when you're using English in different countries, but they're two different websites. So you have to have your real identifiers to help you make sure they separate them out.
Okay. I mean, we are talking about cases like, for example, English in Canada and English in the US, right?
Yeah, that, or even like Singapore. I had to say that was one of them. One of the things I had, English in Singapore would always show up our .com site when we had a specific Singapore site, which we actually fixed. And there was also even like some of our European sites that were just English were showing up in other European sites. So it's like it was really it took me a good year of debugging and just adding like signals of showing which site belongs in which place, which eventually ended up working.
I thought that it would be as easy as just adding some metadata, like this is the language, this is the country, and that's it. Google will get it. But I assume that it's like a bit more complex than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very complex. I mean, that's what I thought too. Like even just adding some schema and stuff like that, it was gonna work. I even adding like the site maps. You have different site maps for each one. You separate them out. You add the language code for each one of them. Things like that. But yeah, it's a combination of all the things I've done for a whole year that finally got it fixed.
Okay. Now, one thing I'd like to discuss regarding Workday, and I guess big websites / brands in general, is branded terms and branded searches. My question would be, how did you approach branded search, both from an organic and a paid standpoint, since you manage both, paid and organic, like search marketing in general? So this would be my first question. How did you approach branded search? And the second question would be, what you think are the biggest opportunities in terms of branded content as a brand grows and evolves, which is kind of connected to what we discussed earlier about branded searches?
Yeah. Like we were talking about earlier, I feel like branded searches is very, very important within the business. And I'll tell you this: you would sometimes will have to also educate why you bid on branded terms. I was like, why we're bidding on this? We're already ranking #1 on organically. Well, you can see our competitors bidding on there, so you want to make sure they don't take our top position. You want to own more real estate, so like you say, you kind of would say, okay, you have a plan of like showing up. Paid and organically to take up more real estate. There's some synergies that you can do with when it comes to paid search or organic search, and where it help each other out. You can also develop that authority. Some people don't like clicking on the ads, but when they see you twice on the same, on the first page, like, oh, okay, that kind of creates this authority in their mind, and then they'll go ahead and click your organic listing, and which is good because you'll save your cost there. But at the same time, paid search can also be that zero click, right? Because if you want someone to get that demo right away, you can already have a straight to go to your demo instead of someone going to your homepage. Like you can say, hey, request a demo here, and they can go directly to a demo from the SERPs. Where if you had only your organic listing showing up, you'd have to kind of browse around, they maybe get lost and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's one less click for someone to get you a demo. At the same time, for both of them, I do like, it's very important again for them to work together. I know we talked about earlier like how I use brand to measure organic brand searches to measure offline events is something that we always do that. And even like impressions, I mean, even like something like where it helps with SEO, right? Like even Neil Patel did that experiment. He goes, who is Neil Patel, right? He had people search Neil Patel, and all his rankings for his general terms rose up. So it's like making sure it's very important to have your brand searches just as much as it is any non-brand searches.
I can attest to that because we have seen in several cases with our clients for different reasons, actually. Either because the client wanted to aggressively increase their budget, PPC spend, or because the client wanted to ride a growth wave, a trend. The increase in PPC spend resulted in positive, in getting better results in organic search as well. Mm-hmm. I think it's connected. It's connected indirectly. I can't see a direct connection there, but I guess it's because people see the brand more in search, and then in a different query, for example, they already know it and they will click on it.
Yep. Exactly. That's exactly what my reasoning too. Because you can't say like in an increase in paid search will direct that will increase your rankings, but it is that indirect mind when you like subconsciously seeing something like when they say like when you see something, in order for someone get it, you see something 7 times or whatever, and then you'll get it. But I mean, it goes like, when you see these brands just showing up on the top of the search through paid searches, and then you never click on them, but then they show up on organic search, you can click on those. Totally.
The thing is though, with all this PPC / organic game, I guess that when you are one of the leaders in your category, it's inevitable, and that you have experienced that you will have many brands that bid on your brand name. I guess it's one of the challenges that you have to face as a brand grows and evolves. So my question would be, and I saw something, a very interesting stat / result achievement on your LinkedIn profile. How did you beat that at Workday, and how did you use brand bidding optimizations to stop competitors from bidding on your brand?
This is a fun one. I love talking about this one. I mean, I don't really tell this. I actually don't really told it. I don't think I told anyone this, but this is what I've done for a couple companies, and it's funny. I'll go to that later on. But what I do is, for our brand, if I see some competitors bidding on our brand, I would raise our bids like really, really high, right? And I would tell people to go search our brand and click on our competitors. And then by the time they click on them, their budget's used up, and so they're gone. You do this for a few days, and they'll realize like, oh shoot, this is a very expensive domain to bid on. And believe it or not, like we had one of our competitors, search marketer, interview for a position at Workday, and they said like, like we actually was bidding on Workday, and we just saw that it was. Our ads were coming down like by the morning time because our budget was up, and we knew why, because this is exactly what we were doing. This was something where I tried this at another company and it worked, and so I was like, you know what? Some competitors were bidding on Workday, so I did the same thing there, and that's exactly what I did.
So essentially, you make it expensive for them to bid on this term, right?
And you click on them. You tell people to click on their ads, so it'll come off and they get charged for it. And I mean, this is something that it can be a little hacky, but at the same time, it's like get off our land.
Yeah, I guess the other one is a bit shady as well, like bidding. I mean, many brands are doing it, but this doesn't mean that we will have to agree with it. I mean, come on, build your own brand so that you get the clicks. Anyway, that's very interesting. I guess we will start wrapping things up, and we started this conversation by discussing how you get into this SaaS / SEO world, and obviously you have a long journey, but what do you think? My question would be, what do you think the future holds for SEO companies when it comes to SaaS, to SEO and content?
Video. Everyone get your videos going, get your video SEO going. Video is big. I mean, video can turn into so much different pieces of content. I mean, like what you're doing right now. You said, this gets cut down to different pieces that you can distribute for other channels. You can like even turn this into a blog, whatever it is. But video is so important. Like I would say even upload videos to like different, like Google showing TikTok videos on their search now. So I mean, like you make sure you upload those. If you upload like your Twitter and Facebook videos to Twitter and Facebook, you can see those like on the Google search video tabs. All those show up there. Like being able to and now that even Google has that video indexing in the Google Search Console, like your pages, they're telling you something. They're saying, hey, put out more video, and that's something that I've been kind of pushing so much lately, and hopefully I see that just being video is the future.
Okay, that's very interesting, and I like that. I don't know. I had a discussion the other day, and someone else told me about Google showing TikTok videos on the search results. That's very interesting, and too bad for Instagram, I guess. That's interesting. A question I have though for video indexing. Do you mean like are these videos that you host on your website? And you also have to index them in Google. How does that work?
Just being like it could be hosted anywhere, just as long as it's on your page. So like you have embedded from YouTube. I mean, obviously Google loves you, Google. So you see a lot more YouTube videos show up. But yeah, you can see these videos show up by having them embedded. Like like I take a lot of my videos and embed them on my SEO.video website, and I can just see like in Google Search Console, like all these videos are being indexed, and it's just basically just having them indexed on an HTML page on your site.
Okay, yeah, I agree. With you. I believe that video is one of the formats that we will see more and more later. And also you can, as you mentioned, like you can be creative when it comes to video. And also, let's not forget that you can have a conversation like the one that we have right now. And this is a piece of content. Like you can use it, as you correctly put it. That's it. People forget how they think that video is all about, I don't know, hiring a video editor and adding expensive effects and whatever. Yeah, you can do that. You can definitely do it, but you can start small and see where this can lead you. Which leads me to my next and last question. Anything exciting we can expect from the SEO Video Show and Dre TV?
Of course, expect a lot more entertaining content, educational. I mean, I love like helping everyone out and just like learning from other people. I'm actually thinking about like for my Dre.tv website, I've actually do a lot of book reviews on there. I read a lot of books. And then I'm thinking about kind of like maybe bringing the SEO video show into like interviewing authors of all the books I've read. So like, kind of maybe bring something like that there. But I mean,
yeah, I guess that your production quality is amazing at the SEO video. So of course I'm not the first one who tells you that, but I guess we need to repeat it once again. It's really amazing what you do there. So really well done. Last question I have for you, call to action for our listeners. Where can people find out more about you and get in touch if they'd like?
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can get me at linkedin.com/in/Paul Andre. I'm at Twitter at Paul Andre, on YouTube at Paul Andre. I've secured my name on all my platforms. So Paul Andre, you can Google Paul Andre de Vera. I have my knowledge panel.
That's great. But the podcast, the show is on SEO Video Show, right? Or
yeah, SEO Video Show. You can search that too. Like it's you can search video show or video SEO show. Yeah,
we will put that in the show notes. Dre, thank you very much for being on the show. Really insightful. Always nice to talk to you. I get all this energy from the US to wherever I am at the moment. So thank you very much for that. And who knows, looking forward to a follow-up episode where we will discuss more interesting things about enterprise SEO.
Yes, George, thank you.
Before you go, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, You can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free.